Hi everybody, today I want to go over some tips for teaching with BigBlueButton. Let's start from the creation of the conferences. So when you set up your conference, you gave it a name, the duration was already there, it's by default recording, but you had some choices to add it to the calendar, which says it's going to send an invite, and you could enable a waiting room. Now that choice is optional and I will show you what that does. After you've created the conference, students cannot get into the conference until you start it. But once I start the conference, students will see a join button, which will allow them to join the session. If you don't have anything to show on the screen, then I would say turn on your camera so you can show the students you're a live person and they have something to look at other than this welcome to Big Blue Button screen. If you like to share PowerPoints, save them as PDFs and upload them directly into BigBlueButton. So you could share a screen, click on your window, and then find the PowerPoint you want to share, which then has it in this mode. You can't see if students write in the chat when you're in this view. What I would do instead is push the plus sign. I'm going to upload a presentation. I click here, and I'm going to look for that same presentation, but this time I saved it as a PDF, and it's going to upload it to the screen when I push upload. Now that I'm sharing directly inside of BigBlueButton, I can still access the public chat and see if students say anything. I just advance through the slides like I would in the PowerPoint, and I have the tools that will allow me to write on the screen. I can also add notation. I could add a sticky. I have lots of choices of what to do. Something that I like to do when I'm teaching is enter BigBlueButton twice. So what that means is I'm going to go back to my class. I'm going to hit join again. When it says join, I'm going to say listen only, because I don't want to have two microphones on. Now you may be wondering, why would I enter twice? Well, sometimes I want to have the student perspective, so I'm going to share my screen to a website. So I'm going to hit share screen. I'm going to pick to go to this website, and I say share. It immediately takes me there. See this note that says I am sharing this tab, so here's the screen I see. Now if I go back, here's my actual screen, and it looks really small, but it tells me I'm sharing. If I click the other tab, I can see what the students are seeing. I like this for verification because sometimes when I'm sharing my screen, I might wonder, what does it look like for the students? Or I might have thought I was sharing to a particular site and I'm actually sharing to something else. When I stop sharing the screen, notice it goes back to where I was in the PowerPoint. So it remembers what I had uploaded, it remembered the place we were on, and we're not having to go back to the beginning and get to our PowerPoint. If students have any trouble accessing BigBlueButton, you do have the opportunity to invite a guest to join. So you could start your session, highlight this long URL, and post it on the announcements. Now, I don't think you're going to have to do this, but it is a choice if you need it. I'm going to use it to show you what it's like to join as a student. So I'm going to go to a different browser altogether. I'm going to paste and go. And it takes me to the place to enter. So here I'm just going to enter that I'm a guest so we don't get confused between the different entries I have. Now that I'm trying to enter, it says I'm in the guest lobby. Remember when we set up the session, we clicked enable the waiting room. If you don't want to have to do this, then don't click that. You could go back and delete and reset your links if you don't want to have this waiting room. On our original site, see how it says I have a waiting user, so I have to click that. And I have to say, allow everyone. I did hear a ring, sounds kind of like a doorbell, when the waiting room was enabled. That tells me somebody's waiting and I need to let them in. Once I click allow them, then now I can see this guest person is in there. During class, you can have class participation by using polls, by letting students write on the screen, by asking questions and letting them write in the public chat. To turn on the multi-user whiteboard, you just click this little screen at the bottom that has like a squiggle on it. When I click that, that says now the guests are allowed to write, and see how they now have pencils on their screen. So if I go back over to my student view, as a guest, I'm moving around and I can grab a pencil and I can write on the board. When I'm done, I just go back down and I click it back off. If I'd like to use a poll, I click on the plus sign, I go to start a poll. I can ask any question I want to, and then you decide, do you want true or false, multiple choice, yes, no, or a typed response. I'm going to hit typed response, and then I start the poll. When I go to that second tab where I entered twice, I can see the question, and if I wanted to, I could put in an answer. Back to the professor view, I can see the answers that come up. So you can see each person, and then you can see their response. As the instructor, you always have a square around your name, and then you have the presentation icon to say that you're presenting. To pick someone else to present, you click on their name, and then you decide, do you want to give them whiteboard access or do you want to make them the presenter? So I'm going to make that person the presenter, which then over here says that I have the option to share my screen. I click this share the screen, and then I pick which window I want to go to. When I want to take the presentation back, I just click back on my name and I say take presenter. When your session is finished and produce the recording, you can go back into BigBlueButton and click on the name of the session. It says video and it says statistics. I know it's small, but now that you know what you're looking for, you'll know where to click. When I click on statistics, it's going to give me a summary of what happened during the session. If you give points for attendance for coming to Tech Live, then this is an easy list of people that came to the session, and you can go into the gradebook and give them points for the session, and you don't have to write it down during the class or worry about missing anyone. You do have an option to download this information as a CSV if you want to save it for your records. When you're done, you can close the screen.